But let me tell you, imagination alone isn't enough. I like to say that imagination without action is merely a daydream. Have you ever had someone look at your dream and say, that's not realistic? Or maybe you've ever been told, that's a nice idea, but let's be practical. Well, I have over and over and over again. And every single time someone has the audacity to look at my dreams or to take my ideas and say, let's be realistic, I smile because your disbelief in my dreams is completely my fuel, literal gasoline to a bonfire. And I've had the privilege and opportunity of writing about this in the 13 Steps to Riches, where I've had the pleasure and the honor of co-authoring with people like Dennis Waitley, Brian Tracy, so many incredible names from The Secret, like John Asseroff and Marie Diamond, Laurel Langmeyer, Eric Swanson. And in this chapter, I identified some pretty important things regarding the power of imagination. But truly, if you have a disbelief and if you disagree to my face about my goals, boy, oh boy, are you lighting up something in me that's going to catastrophically blow up in your face? But that's just the thing. It's totally okay that you do. And I accept it because I want you to not believe in me because I just gonna spend the rest of my life proving you wrong. It sounds really competitive and kind of dark, but if you think about it, there's something that fuels me more than just a desire. It's the ability and the focus to be better than I ever was. Napoleon Hill wrote in his book Think and Grow Rich, imagination is the workshop of the mind, capable of turning mind energy into accomplishments and wealth. But let me tell you, imagination alone isn't enough. I like to say that imagination without action is merely a daydream. We all have big dreams, but too many people in their lives and in their are in their lives, but they get into their heads. It's that application of paralysis by analysis. We get stuck in the beginning processes. And then there's this gap between a dream and a reality that we forget to do. And that's why Think and Grow Rich is all about the mindset and then the application. Because if you do not believe in the reality and the conceptualization of your imagination and your dreams, it truly does just stay as a daydream. That's where action lives, is in the middle. It's the bridge between dream and reality. And I can't wait to dive into that. I have had so many experiences in my life, as many of you had, where you've accomplished something cool, achieved a goal, or did something that was pretty awesome. When I was in high school, I was at the tip of my experience and learning of this concept. And I was told by the principal, because I was in a leadership position through student council, that we had no budget for prom. In fact, not only did we not have a budget, but we were $5,000 as a student body in the hole. So instead of like seeing this as a huge roadblock, I imagined, what can I do with a negative amount of money? And this is from a high school's perspective. I don't know anything about credit cards and debts or anything. All I know is that we're $5,000 in the hole. It takes money to do an event, and prom is the biggest event of the year, especially for seniors. So I saw this as a white canvas, truly as an opportunity. So I imagined as many solutions as I could. And I thought to myself, okay, what do we do here? What if we brought the entire student body, again, no limitations, just thinking, wow, what do we need to do to offset this negative deficit? And what do we do to solve the problem? So, what if we brought the entire student body together? These are the thoughts I had at 18 years old. And then we take the community and we reach out to the community and say, hey, even from our perspectives, and we could get our parents involved, we could get the community involved, we could get our students involved, and you know what? Let's get the other schools involved. I think this would be epic. And what do kids love? So I started brainstorming and thinking of ideas and solutions, and I narrowed it down to a battle of the bands because I knew that every school had their featured band or their featured a group of kids who were in a band. And luckily, I grew up in a very popular place for this. So, and what if we do Battle of the Bands? And I started thinking about that branding, and I said, okay, what is the acronym of Battle of the Bands? Well, BOTB isn't the thing, but BOB is. So what about Bob? Why don't we just make it a mystery and we market it as Bob? What is Bob? Who is Bob? Who is DJ Jet? A spoiler alert, that's me. I was a DJ at age 16. And why don't we hype it up? Like we really hype it up. Charge $20 per ticket and create an event that had students lined up out the door and out the building, and then we all come together for an epic battle of the bands where bands will be on for every 30 minutes. And we'll do 5 or 6 different bands from different schools. And the schools will come to support theirs. And it'll be based off of an applause and a voting situation. This is what we came up with. And for most people, especially like professional event planners, this is a nightmare because there's no detail. It's all assumption, and it's all based off this idea that we need to bring thousands of people to this event to offset our costs. Well, that was no big deal for somebody who had big dreams, because if you tell me, like the principal did, that we have no budget and that we're 5,000 under, I'm going to come up with a solution, and my brain and my imagination are going to skyrocket. So that's what we did. We created Bob, the Battle of the Bands. We made it a mystery. We hyped it up majorly. We marketed this. We put out flyers. We went door to door. We told everyone. And within a few days, we had a full lineup of bands. Then we asked the bands to market the Battle of the Bands, to show up and to be there. And then we had people come to attend the battle, and then we hosted a dance afterwards. I got to tell you, in just one night, we had not only a line out the door and wrapping around the building, but we made over $15,000 in cash. No upfront costs, just pure imagination, bold execution, and my favorite, belief. Here's what I learned over time. To truly activate imagination, you need 4 things. First and foremost, you need a problem solving heart. Okay. You must care enough to want to change. And if so, you need to make sure that that problem solving heart is centered on solving it fast, not just over time, or by the time I turn 30, 40, 50, 60, I'll be able to fix this problem. No, you've got to have the desire to fix it and to fix it now. And that's one of the things that truly creates momentum, the snowball that turns into the avalanche. Number 2 is you need to have an inquisitive mindset. Okay, literally ask questions. Always ask, what's another way? Um, there's a great question and phrase by Dr. Wayne Dyer, and that is that this is my way. What is your way? The way doesn't exist, because too many people get stuck in that paralysis by analysis, thinking there's got to be the way, but instead they got to ask, what's a way or what's another way? I'm sure we could have raised money in other ways, but $15,000 off a Battle of the Bands event thrown together within just a few months, pretty spectacular. The third thing you need to have is optimistic beliefs. Now, I'm not telling you to be an optimist, and I'm not telling you to be one of those people that's overly positive about everything, especially when there's turmoil right in front of their faces, or they're living on the streets and they're just looking up. Like, I need you to have optimistic belief systems. You have to believe it's possible before others do. And you've got to convince yourself that that's something that is possible. Because if it can happen for others, it truly can happen for you. And I never thought it couldn't happen. So maybe that's the belief system. Optimism isn't believing you can't, it's just never believing that you couldn't and that you always can. And the fourth thing you need to have, which you all have, by the way, is a solution oriented attitude. Everyone in this life has solved a problem. How did we learn to walk? Well, we couldn't walk at one point, so we learned to crawl. And then we learned to stand. And then we learned to take those steps. And we fell many times, but we figured it out. We were solution oriented from our attitudes the moment we were born. So the more that we focus on how we can and not why we can't, the faster we create solutions in our lives. Imagination isn't wishful thinking, especially when we look at that optimistic brain. We need to think of it as a strategic vision with emotional horsepower. Let me repeat that. It's a strategic vision with emotional horsepower. Emotion must be involved because if you truly desire an outcome, I swear to you, you will go for it. 9 out of 10 times, if you truly desire what you want, you go for it and you always get it. So that's something that we need to continue to strive for. And you know what? Since that high school moment, and again, that was not the peak of my performance, but it's a huge example of what can be done when you have a very naive personality and unlimited imagination. I've been able to do more, like build a DJ business at age 16 that thrived, and I built out an entire enterprise of DJing where I was putting local DJs out of business in my hometown. I've been able to travel the world as a motivational and award-winning speaker. I've learned 3 languages. Okay, no stopping at just business. Like I've learned 3 languages. I've launched multiple companies. I've led a community with over $20 million in connection-driven results. Also, I was able to happily marry the woman of my dreams, you know, and the love of my life. And so all of these things started as a mere thought that I could. And for you, it's the exact same. And I'll tell you what, those are just a few things. I'm not done yet. I'm in my 30s and I'm just getting started. Because every single time I dream, I take action. It comes true. So why would I stop? Let's turn it back on you. Why would you stop? Why would you limit your dreams? If I am living proof that some average Joe can dream it, take action, and make it come to fruition, why would you let it go? But I mean that. So let me ask you now, what what's the big idea you've been keeping in your imagination and not bridging the gap to action and realism? Okay. What dream have you been afraid to act on because someone told you to be realistic? What if you stopped waiting for permission? What if you believed in your vision as deeply as I believed in mine? Let's stop calling dreams too big and let's start calling them blueprints. Okay? They are maps. They truly are. Carol Dweck, the author of one of my all-time favorite books, the book called Mindset, once said, "The view you adopt for yourself profoundly affects the way you lead your life." So what if you change that view? What if today you adopted the belief that your imagination is not just valid, it is vital? Okay? What if you adopted the belief that your imagination is not just valid, but it is also vital? If it weren't for the world's realistic expectations, I might have settled. But instead, I dreamed louder, I acted bigger, and now I invite you to do the same. Now that you've eliminated your limitations through this thought process and literally just saying, yeah, I'm done. It's over. No more negativity, no more limitations. So now that you've eliminated those limitations, what will you imagine next?